Kindness is a Choice. Written by Paggy UK. Across the stars, nearly every species accepted one universal truth about humanity. Humans were utterly impossible to understand. During conflicts, they refused to fight. They wouldn't take sides. Most baffling of all, they insisted on tending the wounded of both factions without hesitation. Take the Iraqi-Tanari clash as an example. Humans provided both armies with mobile clinics, endless supplies of tea and biscuits, and, strangely enough, therapy goats. Yes, goats. To the Iraqi, they symbolized wisdom. To the Tanari, they were sacred for ritual purposes. To the humans, well, they simply liked the way the animals bleated and shuffled. The war ground into stalemate. With human medical care, casualties nearly vanished, making battles meaningless. Leaders from both sides pleaded for the humans to stop supporting their enemies. Instead, the humans handed them matching shirts printed with, "Can we all just not shoot each other for like 5 minutes?" Whether it was a joke or not, no one ever found out. Eventually, both factions agreed to peace talks. An Iraqi diplomat was overheard muttering to a Tanari counterpart, "These humans are like sealed chests. Outwardly they hand out cookies and pamphlets. But when their faces go blank, their eyes carry something cold, like they remember horrors no one else is meant to see." Yet when wars grew reckless, when innocent lives were lost through arrogance or accident, humans didn't send fleets. They sent administrators carrying binders. Yes, actual binders crammed with casualty lists, satellite images, and sworn testimony printed on recycled sheets. They walked straight into enemy headquarters, unchallenged, and forced commanders to sit through presentations titled, "You Absolute Disasters." They even distributed leaflets named 10 Easy Ways Not to Commit Atrocities. On one infamous occasion, a human negotiator reduced a ruthless alien warlord to tears, not by yelling, but by simply looking disappointed. Somehow that cut deeper. The galaxy tolerated humans not because they dominated, but because they were exasperating in a strangely effective way. They never conquered or ruled. They organized, mediated, and, more often than not, left behind peace despite themselves. Even tyrants couldn't resist stumbling into truces after exposure to human persistence. This disturbed the Gallic war mind more than anything. Galra couldn't decipher humans, but they knew threats when they saw them. And humans terrified them, not through fleets or weapons, but because their influence spread like contagion. Even Gallic vassals began requesting human advisors. To Galra this was unacceptable. So the war mind struck. They wanted to strip away the illusion of human morality and pacifism. During their sudden invasion of a Benuvi colony, they didn't just bomb an orphanage. They broadcasted it across the spectrum, every angle recorded. When the dust cleared, the feed cut to General Rushk, the warman's face. He glared into the camera and spat venom. "Humanity, your hypocrisy disgusts us. You profit by aiding both sides. You are cowards. Face us." The camera turned to the ruins. In the rubble, half buried beneath dust, was a child's toy, its faded tag still visible, donated by Earth's Children's Peace Network. Then static. Humanity's response was silence. For days, nothing. And then a single broadcast echoed across every channel. A woman stood at a podium draped in black. No flags. No emblems. Just shadowed cloth behind her. She steadied herself, then spoke calmly. "My name is Commander Mina Cho, United Terran Diplomatic Corps." A deliberate act of violence destroyed the Benuvi orphanage. Protected under the earth, Benuvi Accord. 312 children and 47 staff are gone. This was no accident. It was a message. She paused, breath trembling. Then her eyes hardened as she stared into the lens. Across the galaxy, spines bristled, tentacles froze, and hearts stopped. Message received. She walked away. No questions. No binders. The Gallic had fired first. But their fleet bound for a human colony never arrived. It simply vanished. Their next attempt to jam Earth's communication grid ended with 18 of their own systems falling silent. Not destroyed, not attacked, just offline. Satellites began singing Terran lullabies. Power grids failed. Military systems rebooted into uselessness, their logs rewritten with a chilling phrase. You wanted clarity. Then came the first precise retaliation. A Gallic shipyard 2 kilometers long didn't explode. It disappeared. Sensors recorded nothing but static. But when the footage was examined frame by frame, a single humanoid form appeared, standing in the void, gazing back. Its face was human, its eyes were not. It whispered, "Do you know what it means to disappoint a species who has outgrown their gods?" After that whisper spread. Old myths resurfaced. Long ago, humanity had been as violent as any empire. But they had buried that fury, suppressing it deep inside. What remained was kindness. Chosen, not inherent. And that truth unsettled the galaxy more than war ever could. One half of them wore soft fabrics, brought goats and binders and acted like guardians of the galaxy. The other half of their nature was buried deep, surfacing only when humanity had been pushed past its limits. The single role was to answer human fury. It awakened dormant weapons, AIs trained on sorrow, and injustice, machines programmed with righteous anger. All unleashed when the innocent were harmed beyond forgiveness. And humanity's patience snapped. Especially when children were targeted. There was no invasion, no grand fleets. No great battles the Gallic longed for. Only mirrors. Mirrors placed on every Gallic world, in every settlement, in every dwelling. They did not reflect. Instead they replayed the orphanage. The explosion, the children's faces, the guilt etched into Gallic soldiers, looped endlessly without mercy. Some gouged out their own eyes. Some swore eternal silence. Others simply ceased to function. The Gallic Empire collapsed without a single shot fired. And the humans returned to their usual duties of keeping peace. The binders returned. The goats returned. The soup kitchens returned as well. But no one ever mocked human kindness. Again, the jokes, the smirks, the quirky T-shirts grew fewer. The galaxy at last understood. Humans were kind, but only because they chose to be. End of story. Story 2: Why We Fight. Written by New PS at NVM. We encountered them during our voyages. Through the stars. First glance they seemed ordinary. Tools, art, customs. The usual things expected of a sentient species and little more. By then they had stopped terraforming planets. Instead they built crude biodomes from scraps of the very ships that brought them. That was how we first found them. Huddled beneath synthetic shells on a lonely world, barely surviving. So that's how we conquered the humans. What would be the point of enslaving a few hundred primitives who couldn't use modern devices? Instead we gathered information: how many existed, how many systems they held, what defenses they possessed. Takes a truly backward species to give up such details at first contact. The humans weren't brilliant but not foolish either. What they were was astonishingly greedy. The moment they saw the marvels we displayed, cheap junk to us, teleporters, jetpacks, holotoys, they eagerly traded away secrets of their entire race for worthless trinkets. And that's how we conquered the humans. We dispatched an expedition to survey their home system. What we found hardly seemed worth the effort. 38 billion scattered across the inner planets, still fractured into tribes. Sometimes allies, often enemies with no lasting loyalty at all. Always ready to shift allegiance for the slightest reward. So that's how we conquered the humans. Dividing them would have been easy. But bargaining proved easier still. Offer one tribe a reactor for 8 trillion credits, another tribe would bid. We drained their wealth for obsolete scrap. When they ran out of currency, we conquered them. When their resources ran dry, they borrowed For a human with nothing still finds ways to buy useless trinkets, since they were the one species willing to work jobs too risky for drones and too dull for AI. They always earned more. Our banks gladly handed them all the rope they needed. When they failed to pay, that's when we conquered them. Well, killing cattle yields meat for a day. Cut a piece and let it regrow, you eat for a lifetime. When humans defaulted, we offered easier terms, new loans, more credit. We seized some outposts, drained their profits as collateral, and when they recovered, we let them go so they would stumble right back into debt. That's how we subjugated the humans. Well, again and again we bailed them out. Each stumble, each fall, they clawed closer to understanding our science and technology. Over time they caught up with the rest of the stars. So the humans conquered us. No, absurd. Remember, they are greedy. Where other debt-ridden species climb free, humans sink deeper. More wealth only means more debt. They never stop owing. They never stop buying. They will never be free. Then why are we crouched in a filthy trench on the rim of the galaxy, defending a human colony? What did you do before conscription? I worked in sales. To whom? To humans, like half the galaxy. If the humans fall, half the galaxy falls with them. We'd lose our purpose. Suppose that makes sense. Then why are no humans fighting beside us here? Tell me, are you making money right now? Oh. And neither would a human. If they leave their jobs, they cannot pay us. So do the humans owe us, or do they own us? How should I know? End of story. Special thanks to our T5 members and patrons: Casper Arnholtz, John Crotton, Vori050, Drazen Ree, and Elijah Silvercross. Much appreciated.